Linda is my saving grace. She always reminds me to hit the record button again, so that I don't miss half of the training. Super helpful. So without further ado, I want to be conscientious of our time. I want to introduce Nicole Cooper, who is a local yokel to the Roanoke area. So I actually know what she looks like from the waist down, which is a rare phenomenon in the online business world. So I pretty much, Nicole, whenever somebody is talking about social media, I talk about you because I know that it's not only like your passion, but like you're so insightful in using your previous experience as a teacher to make this topic feel less scary or less frustrating and also fun. And to that point, I absolutely love the content you create because it is fun and lighthearted. I can't remember what you had going on like Sunday, Monday, but it was like you drinking a cup of coffee, doing something weird, but it was like perfect. So I hope that you can find a way to talk about that in this training so that I can remember the whole context. But
yeah.
So if you want to take it from here, and also share a little bit about your background as well, anything that I didn't do a good job about.
You're perfect. Don't worry about it. It was all great. Thank you for inviting me. Thank you for having me. And I will talk a little bit about that, what the video that I created on, I think it was probably Monday. I'm just getting back from having some surgery, so I'm getting all caught up. And I also have a teenager and parents who live close by that I help as a caregiver for. So I have lots of balls in the air. But as Christy said, I was a teacher for about 8 years, and I taught pre-K through 8th grade, and I was the technology teacher. And technology is a very wide ranging subject. And because I was at a small nonprofit school, I was able to create a curriculum, and that curriculum was based off of what I saw that kids needed. A lot of times we have the actual hardware in our hand and we can figure out how to use it. They say they're born with a phone in their hand. That's kind of the saying now. But it's so much more about being responsible, not only for the messages that you receive, but in the messages that you create. Because more than ever before, social media has given us an opportunity to create messages, images, add our voices to conversations, and for good or for bad. So hopefully more good than bad, but also a way to keep ourselves safe and to keep others safe. And so for years I worked on that, and that involved sort of staying very much in touch with apps, the latest apps, or where the kids were going, what they were downloading, how they were using it, how the government, how to protect our kids in terms of like age limits and all that stuff. And I love that kind of stuff. I can get into the data and just dig deep for hours and hours and hours, and I love it. But then you have to make that translation in terms of like, how can I teach this to kids? And I also have to teach parents, because parents would sometimes ask me, is this a bad app? Is this a good app? My kid wants this app, and I don't want that responsibility, number one. Number two, I don't know how they plan to use it. I don't know how much you're going to monitor it. And so this also then makes the leap into how businesses use their social media. Is this a good app for your business? Or is this a good app for you to be on, or platform? And there are a whole bunch of questions that only you can address. What's right for you? What's right for your business? Who's your ideal client? So all of this I was able to move from the classroom into this area of business where I could really feel like I could help adults and small business owners make choices and decisions regarding their social media and their marketing in a way that was meaningful and that would protect them and protect their interests as well. So that's how I got here and where I came from. I was also a non-traditional student. I graduated from Hollins University 20 years after I graduated high school. So I had a lot of life experience before I ended up with my communications degree. I was very lucky to be able to return to school when my son was in school. So that was fun to have a 4-year-old while I was, taking finals and all that stuff. So, but here we are. I do have just a very sort of brief slideshow, because you never know where folks are in their social media marketing journey, what specific questions you might have, or things that you want to address. So I just made a few slides so we can just kind of hit some Really important things that maybe sometimes get missed or not considered. And as Christy said, I try to add my insight, which is what I encourage business owners to do anyway with their social media. It's not just about sharing bits of information from your field, but your take on it. So no matter what you hear in my short presentation or what I have to say today, there will be people who agree, disagree, and that's totally fine. This is just my take on it. And you can take bits and pieces of it. You can toss it all out. You can write it down and live by it, whatever. This is a social science, so there is no black and white, and you also have to find what's the right fit for you or what resonates or sticks with you. So I do not claim to be the end all be all voice when it comes to social media marketing whatsoever. So let's see, I'm going to try to share my screen really briefly and go through this. All right, let me grab a little sip of my Diet Coke. And we'll get started. So my company is Nicole Cooper Media, formerly Modern Buzz Media. And what I really strive to do is not social media marketing for your business, but to help you do your own social media marketing until and if you reach the point that you want to hand it off. So to begin, when it comes to digital marketing and digital media, you have to have a budget. Either you budget the time or you budget the money. It has to be a part of your business like any other byline in your budget. You have got to address this. This is going to be there. People will look for you on the social media channels. And if they don't hear you or they don't see you, that sends a message in and of itself. Not that that's a bad thing. Maybe they look for you on TikTok, but that's not where you care to be. So that's the message. I'm not here on TikTok. And there are reasons why you may or may not be on TikTok. When you're considering where to budget your time in terms of social media, taking the time to make sure that you have identified your ideal client, even like where they are and not just where they are. So they're on Facebook, but then think about my ideal client is a person of this age, that age, and they have kids. So it's not just age. I always don't minimize it to demographics like that. But let's say your ideal client is a woman in her 30s with 2 kids, and they play several intramural sports, and you really sort of dug down into who your ideal client is. So then when you think about your presence on Facebook, think about why that mom with 2 kids and a van full of soccer equipment and lacrosse equipment, why is she going to Facebook? She's going there probably to stay connected with families, share pictures of her kids and what they're doing, find out about local events, things to do with her kids. So when you're trying to reach that client, it's not just that you're both on the same platform, but that you're understanding why she is using that platform. Why is she on Instagram? Why is she on TikTok? When they talk about TikTok, when you hear people talk about TikTok and they say, well, I'm making a video for Instagram, I'll just go ahead and upload it to TikTok. You can do that. You're not going to probably get the kind of traction that you want with TikTok. Something like TikTok, to really be successful, you have to be in on the joke, right? TikTok is very much about making videos that are funny and pithy and shareable and add, some kind of funny or fun value. Overall, that's why people go to TikTok. There are we can talk, and we'll talk a little bit about niching down a little bit, but if you're going to be on TikTok, really think about being in on the joke, like not taking yourself too seriously. And that's why people use that platform. That's the kind of things that they're looking for. So doing that kind of work, when you are identifying your ideal client, not just where they are, but then thinking about why they're there. What are they using that particular platform for? Are they on YouTube because they really like short tutorials on how to learn, basics on learning to, plant house plants or replant plants. Maybe you sell plants and people have their babies grow off of them. So maybe you provide YouTube videos on how to replant or where to put them, because that's why people use TikTok. Why do you YouTube? Why do you go to YouTube? Often it's for tutorials or messages about how to help something in your life, some part of your life where you need a little bit of help. So keeping that in mind as you're thinking about where to budget your time or your money.
Can I interject real quick?
Yeah.
So something that came to mind as you're thinking, because I'm pretty transparent in this group about my own journey in figuring out social media, is I really love what you said about don't just create something for one and then just blast it and assume it's going to be as effective. Like I think about how I consume Instagram and it's silent. And when I think about TikTok, I'm going to sit down with my phone somewhere where I can listen to the audio, because there's so much, you get so much more out of it. So you can accomplish different things with those different platforms as well. So I think that that was something really insightful. I just thought
Yeah, no, and that's
Paraphrase.
absolutely right. And it's better to pick a platform or two that you really want to start on and that you can dig deep on and really commit the time to making the content for, instead of like, oh, I have to be on LinkedIn and I have to be here, all of these places. If you're already there and you feel comfortable and established, then add something to your repertoire. But it's better to be really good and strong in one or two pieces of the puzzle rather than be sort of muddled everywhere else. So that would be my, along that line of thinking then, thinking about why and how people are using those platforms. That being said, social media is a free marketing tool. Your business is not made or broken by it. There is a lot of idea that if I could just get people to follow me, I could make $1 million. Like this is a free tool. Let's use it wisely and also recognize that it's a free tool. It's not going to make or break you, but it is a cog in the machine. So it can, make your process faster, simpler. It can help you, but I think it's kind of a relief to go, okay, I don't need to take it so it is not going to make or break my business. I mean, yes, you can find examples to the extreme, one way or the other, where it made or broke somebody's business. But if you have even those examples, you can usually find that there were small cracks or steps that led to that anyway. So sometimes you hear people laugh when they're called an overnight success, and they're like, well, I've been doing this for 10 years and I just became an overnight success. So the same sort of applies when we're talking about digital media. So people are using their social networking apps as search engines more and more. So when you're thinking about where you want to be, this is where your research ahead of time is going to really pay off. There are lots of voices probably in your field as well, and you want to be one of those voices that people rely on. A good example of this was a few weeks back. I was looking for a place to go to brunch on a Sunday, and I don't do a lot of Sunday brunching, and I didn't even know where to begin. You can Google, but even since the pandemic, even when you Google businesses, sometimes their hours aren't correct or what days. So usually I have to go to social to find out that's the most up-to-date place. So I used Facebook to Google brunch locations near me, and I was happily surprised that not only did it give me results, but I could see people that I knew who had checked in at those places or shared photos from those places. So then it becomes a referral of sorts, like, oh my gosh, my friend went there. I didn't even realize she ate at this place, and look at that picture. So it's like, instead of me texting her saying, hey, have you ever eaten here? Or can you recommend a place? Clearly she checked in on Facebook. She shared photos from her experience. And I could look at the post to see if, like, did she have a bad time? But my guess would be if she had a bad time, she would, unless the photo was like, look, I found this fly in my, but they were lovely photos. And it seemed to indicate that she had a good experience. So when you're creating your content, or you are thinking about if you have a bricks or mortar store or a service that you offer, and you encourage folks to check in or tag you, remember that those tags then become little anchor points as people use their social more and more as a search engine and rely less on the bigger search engines like Google when they're researching their businesses. Specifically, you'll find data on Gen X. Gen Xers love to look at reviews. They go into like Amazon and they read the reviews. They read reviews on Yelp. Like, they will dig really deep before they spend their money. So if that's a group that's in your ideal client category, that's going to be really important to make sure that they are going to find you when they're doing this kind of research. So just some things to consider as you're thinking about your content. And we'll talk a little bit about user-generated content. And this is another way that kind of stuff comes in to help you as a small business owner when people are using these search engines or social sites for search. And then that also brings in the idea of keywords versus hashtags. People aren't really searching by hashtag anymore. A lot of times the algorithms have gotten smart enough, quote unquote, to parse out those words. So as you're creating your captions, it becomes really important. So your captions on your Instagram post, your Facebook post, that your keywords for finding you are present more and more. And those keywords can come either in your caption, or if you're thinking about often you'll be asked about alt text. Adding alt text to an image is really, it's a wonderful thing for anyone who has any kind of adaptive technology for things like vision impairment, or if they have something on their computer to help them better understand what they're seeing or reading. So that alt text becomes a way to help those folks, but it also adds keywords to your posts, which helps you become even another way to become discoverable in these kinds of searches. So, and to this point, using social networks, this is where I really wanted to say, don't be afraid to really go niche on this. This is where you sort of niche down. If you, as an example, if I am a cat photographer, a pet photographer, and maybe I really want to niche down and I want to talk about cats, I really want to be the best cat photographer, but I'm going to niche down and be the best black cat photographer you have ever seen. And now I become an expert in black cat photography. No matter what I do, where I go from there, once I've established myself and have become accepted as an expert, as niche down as it is, you take that term expert with you everywhere you go. Everything you do, then you are now recognized as an expert in that field. If it's like you are the expert at taking pictures of black cats with 6 toes on their left paw, whatever it is. So don't be afraid to niche down. There are billions of people in the world. Facebook, if it were a country, would be the largest country by far in the world. People are really unique, and in so many ways we think we're so unique, but then we find, oh, there are 10,000 other unique people just like me who like black cats with 6 toes on their left paw, whatever. So that's just one example of it. But you know, as you think about your business and finding specific sectors or sections, and encouraging you to not be afraid to go niche. Especially when it comes to your marketing. Not that you have to go niche in your offers, but when you're talking about marketing. So that this is a place where you can do that, and then build that idea of being an expert, creating that idea, creating that understanding among users. And then when you start taking pictures of orange cats, you are already a cat expert in some way, right? So just think about that. As I have 2 cats sleeping next to me right now. Neither of them black. My black cat is out there. But if you've ever tried,
Nicole,
yeah,
you have a quick question here too. Melissa says that she's interested in an opinion on spam tagging, people who tag her business just to spread spam versus how useful actual client tags are.
Yeah. Not any good for a number of reasons. One, it's annoying. People who do that often end up unfollowed, but more and more. And this is one of the upsides to AI technology. You're going to get caught doing it. And if you're in a place like Instagram or Facebook, you can get banned, or if you're familiar with the term shadow ban, where it's not an official ban, but all of a sudden you see your numbers just take a nosedive. You run that risk greatly. So being mindful about when and where you tag, and I get them, and I usually report those accounts and block them, but it's like these things go through cycles where all of a sudden I'm getting like tagged in all these weird like Bitcoin posts or something like that. And I'm like, this is ridiculous. And I do try to untag myself, but I mean, ultimately, if you're experiencing it, others are experiencing it as well. When I do see things like that, I often like double check my security, make sure that I have 2-factor authentication set up, make sure that my password is strong, and just like, because now I know I've been identified for some reason, that's usually a signal for me, like double check everything and make sure you're secure.
Just a quick clarification. I just mean like on Instagram, for example,
yeah,
I hardly ever get good tags. they're only ever some account spamming my tag. And on Instagram in particular, I can't remove it. Once
Yeah.
they've tagged me in a post, it's forever tagged in a post. So it's just, I get, is this another element where we should think about it in the context of our business? Because for me personally, I don't have a product or a location. So I
Yeah.
don't know why people would tag me in their posts.
So are you
Well,
talking about like if you make a post and they're tagging you in your comments, they're saying something, or they're tagging you on a random post that has nothing to do with your business?
Yes.
Yeah,
That
so
second one.
you can report that. Click on that if you're on your phone, click on the 3-dot matrix and report it as spam. And also you can block them so that it's not there. And if it's somebody you know, you can ask them to remove the tag. Or you can
Yeah.
even go into the comments and say, you know, that please don't tag me in this. And
That never happens, by the way. It's never like somebody I know doing a weird tag. It's usually just some random person. You won something. That's my Facebook.
yeah.
Always you won something.
Yeah,
Okay, so I can report the post as spam.
Yes. Yeah. So I'm thinking about it from my phone. There should be a little 3-dot matrix up in the corner when you're on the post. And you can usually find like report. And then you can report it as spam. And that's exactly what it is. That's a spam post. And those accounts are generally bot accounts. And Instagram is full of them, especially right now. So it probably isn't going to make much difference, but it makes me feel better to know that I'm doing what I can. Like I get those as well. Or I find that if I check in, and this is another thing I recommend for small businesses, this is based off of something I read on HubSpot. Checking when you are making a post, even posting your city. So I'll post when I make a post, if it's not something specific to my location, I'll just make sure that I add my location, Roanoke, Virginia. That helps you be found in your area. And even if your business does like span, you know, beyond your locality, it is a nice way for people to find you. I read about this on HubSpot, but what I find is when I check in on Roanoke, when I add the tag, the geo tag for Roanoke, Virginia, anywhere from 5 minutes to 30 minutes, I'll get a tag, DM like Virginia community, da da da. So the other thing you can do, and that would be a comment on my post, you can go into your Instagram settings and set up alerts or words that are not allowed to be added to your comments section without your approval. So you can find that in your settings. You can go. You
just rocked my world.
Yeah. That's so like if you didn't want the like just DM to show up, or if you specifically
can you do like spaces, could I do it DM me for, because that's what they always start with. Sorry guys.
I don't know if it'll keep
help somebody else. This is just all the really annoying stuff.
Yeah. So and that won't, I don't believe that'll keep you from being tagged in other people's posts, but it'll keep them from being able to put those words on your posts. And you can turn off tagging, which it just depends on your business and how you like people to use your spaces. But you do have some control over that. If you are working specifically with, let's say, weight loss clients, and you end up with trolls who want to use nasty language, and you see words come up over and over, you can go in and set up alerts so that people can't use certain words or phrases to go into the comments and troll. So that can be really important, so that you don't have to worry, so much about it, especially if you do end up with a troll who's like annoying you, or you end up in some community where people are like, oh, we don't like this person, or whatever their business is, or that, whatever your sector is, for whatever reason, if you do feel like that's happening, you have that bit of control. So if I really wanted to get rid of that DM issue, I could go into there and list that as no one is allowed to use DM in my comments. But I worry about people saying, I sent you a DM, like legitimate people DMing me and not being able to tag me. So it just depends on what works for you. But if it gets out of control, you do have some recourse there.
Thank you.
Yeah, you bet.
That was amazing.
That helps. Good. So let's go on from there. So we're going to talk about mitigating the post-shutdown customer service expectations. And this is a great place for automation to come into the conversation. Those businesses that survived the pandemic and the shutdowns, whether you were in business before or during or came about afterwards. The businesses that survived were those that were able to create conversation and lines of customer service interaction in a digital world. So even if you are a local restaurant, if you survived, you generally had really good response, or in some way you were able to communicate with your customers digitally on your social media apps. And customer service went through the roof because everybody, including that restaurant owner down the street, was home on their computer or had their computer set up in the restaurant because they weren't dealing with clients coming through the door. So people got really, really accustomed to great customer service on the social media apps, not sending you an email necessarily, not going to your website, but to being able to DMing the restaurant down the street on Facebook and saying, what are your hours, or what's your special, and getting a response. And then pandemic restrictions lifted and people went back. The business owners went back to who had bricks and mortar went back to bricks and mortar, and customers by and large also returned to bricks and mortar. However, their expectations for customer service levels did not go back to pre-pandemic levels. They want to be able to go into these bricks and mortar spaces, and they want the kinds of attention on social media apps that they had during the pandemic. So good, bad, fair, unfair, it doesn't matter. That's where we are. And this is where you'll find, when I looked for 2023 trends and I was reading about data and data points that indicate those businesses, and generally it's going to be through automation, that are prepared and are early adopters of AI technology, automated response systems. And Christy, of course, is like the guru for all of that. And if you do want to search, you can look for HubSpot. They had a 2023 trends report. If you want to get into all of the data, if you like that kind of thing, or you want to read where this was based on, that's where I got it. But people want to be responded to. And they get the idea now more and more that they're being answered. A bot is answering them. And maybe the bot can provide the service they need very quickly. What are your hours? Bang, that bot knows, can answer. But I have a very specific question. It will then get me to a place or alert somebody that I'm going to get a response. I recently sent a response to a company that I had a problem with, and I had a question, and their bot sent me back like 10 points of things like, you have to do this, 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 and this. And I was like, I'm not going to do that. And so I was like, okay, the problem is you. This is a you problem. And also your bot asks too many questions. And that was my response. And I stopped using their product because it was a terrible, I get that it's a bot, and I encourage people to set up that kind of automation, but it has to be done in a way that's meaningful and will not frustrate and overwhelm your customer. And again, this is where Christy can probably offer you specifics on how to do that. But I really wanted to address how the users on social media apps are relying on, as we said, search, but also for customer service. So I don't know, Christy, if you have anything at this point.
So I was just chatting with Linda on here. She was she was confused a little bit about the pandemic piece. And what I said was essentially that when the pandemic shut down in-person interactions, everybody took business to being online. And so if we put ourselves into the position of being a consumer, we got trained for immediate gratification all the time. And so now, where the bar may have been set, down below here in the past, and that was okay and acceptable, businesses wanted to stay in business. And so they pivoted really quickly. That's the new expectation. So just because we have in-person service doesn't mean that we can now have a lower quality of online service. So yeah, now you have to do double duty if you have, if you've had to make that shift and that change as a result of the pandemic.
Yeah, that's hitting the nail on the head. And even if you were a business that was established after COVID, just people come in with that expectation now. Like, I sent you a DM on Facebook, I expect a response. And it's not like they're going to be angry, but it's those who respond faster are going to be like, oh, well, that was great. I had it addressed. But yes, the way you say it is absolutely correct. People, we're trained into, this is the new normal. And it's very hard to go backwards on something.
I just wasn't clear on post shutdown that you meant the pandemic.
Oh yeah.
We've had a lot of shutdowns for different reasons.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the
Yep.
other thing that's
So-
worth mentioning about all of that is whether you have or have not adopted that technology or those kinds of immediate, like automated solutions, your competition has. So you have to be conscientious, not just about how you have changed over the years, but how your competition has changed and how do you remain relevant and competitive in your industry.
Yep, you got it. All right, I will go ahead and go on. The one thing I wanted to, before I moved on from, I wanted to say, if I didn't mention it in the previous slide, make sure that your bios are up to date anywhere you are on Facebook, Instagram, making sure your bios also have your keywords in them. And you want your keywords to be very early in your bio. And this is, you know, if you are a photographer, you don't want to bury that in that. If you get, 10 words, a space for 10 words there, make sure photographer comes up first or among the first few words. Your bio should be pretty clean. And now on Instagram, you can have up to 5 links. I usually recommend a link tree or something like that, just because that's so easily shareable in so many spaces. But when we're talking about keywords, I realize I didn't mention your bio on any of your social media sites. Work really hard to make sure your keywords are showing up there and that they're as cleaned up as possible. Let's see.
You can make your own link tree in Automation on a Mission.
Oh, nice. Perfect. Very good. Yep. And it's so great to have it. And then you can make a QR code just for your link tree kind of thing. And then whatever it is. And then I put my link tree on my most recent business card. So my website address is on there, but the QR code goes to my link tree because that has my most up-to-date stuff. If I'm doing a class and it's limited amount of time and I want that to come up quickly when I meet you and you open my link tree, and I can move things up and down in my link tree so that it's the first thing you see so that it shows up. So that's really important. If you have a way to do that, if it's through Automation on a Mission, if you have that kind of technology, it's really, really helpful because it just covers so many bases. Engagement is a two-way street. As I said at the beginning, when we talked about kids using media more than ever, being creators of media businesses, we often make a post and then we wait for people to engage. And it's then people, okay, well, I'm engaging, I'm making the post, and then anytime somebody comments, I'm interacting with a comment. But it has to go a little bit further than that. And what we find, if you are really, if this is considered a win for you or a goal for you on your social media, so there's no one goal that people set. You have to assess and create your goals for your own business. What is considered a success? Is engagement, a 300% increase over 12 months or a 20% conversion, whatever that is. And so then as you go back and look through the data, you can see if you're moving toward the goal. So it's progress, not perfection. And in engagement, in this particular, if engagement is something that's important to you, if you don't want to feel like you're sort of shouting into the void all of the time, it's not just on your posts, it's how you show up as your business on other people's posts, people that you follow, businesses that are either business partners or people like I follow other social media account managers. And if they offer really good advice, I try to make time to say, that's a really good point. And this is how I use it. So those kinds of comments, and then they will respond. And that increases both of your engagements in terms of being able to show up more in people's feeds. And then people will look in those comments and they'll see your business pop up again and think either they agree or disagree, but that is also a lead back to your site or your stream, your feed, whatever it is. So, and LinkedIn is another good place if that's a place that you're on a lot to make those kinds of comments. For a while, people were trying to sort of play the game a little bit by leaving like smiley faces or fire emojis. And then the algorithm sort of picked up on that. That's kind of like throwing junk food. Like it's not really meaningful engagement. And you really can learn a lot, and you can learn a lot by actually consuming that media. But in reading those, going into the comment section and reading how people are responding, how they're maybe pushing back a little bit, that can also give you some content ideas and ways to use it. But also it rewards you literally in terms of engagement and algorithms. So it's a slow burn. You're not going to see an immediate response, but if you do take time if you make the time to budget to sit and maybe drink your cup of coffee, and during that cup of coffee, you're engaging with, a number of posts. It doesn't have to be hundreds of posts, but it does start to add up, and it can steamroll a little bit for you. So that's just a nice way to consider it a learning experience for yourself, but also a chance to boost yourself in the algorithm. So definitely, if you can budget that time to meaningfully engage. So your social feeds should add more value and less advertising. It's estimated that people receive 6,000 to 10,000 advertisements per day. That's not just digital messaging, that's advertisements. They have become very savvy in being able to tune it out and turn it off. And if we are talking digital media in these social spaces, people are turning to them for social reasons. So they don't receive advertising well. They pick it up. They will unfollow accounts. They will not interact with accounts where they feel like they're being advertised to. So this is where we come into what's called value-added content. And there are a bunch of terms that basically mean the same thing. And we'll talk about ways to build this into your business here in just a second. Think about your email list as well. I don't know if any of you have seen this in anybody that you're subscribed to recently. I have several businesses. I'll use Jenny's Ice Cream as an example. I don't know if you're familiar with Jenny's Ice Cream. I follow them. I'm on their email list. And a few weeks ago, I got an email that said, we understand that Mother's Day might not be the happiest day for everyone. And if you want to opt out of our Mother's Day emails, click this link. So rather than people go, I'm not checking my email at all because I don't want to see anything about Mother's Day, or I'm going to unfollow them and I'll follow them again later, because they probably won't. Addressing that pain point in your own email system, in your own, in your way, and whatever way you think your clients or your people might need, or whatever is important to you as the business owner. Or if you have a specific, like if you don't want to receive emails about Black cats being photographed versus just overall cat photography, as you break it down, people can opt out of certain emails. So they're not unsubscribing altogether. So remembering that they come to their email, not just for business, but for pleasure as well. It is it's not traditional in the sense like a search, like a social media site, but email has become a place of social and business. So it's not uncommon for folks to unfollow or to unsubscribe when they're annoyed, like this is not pertinent to me, it's too much, whatever. So giving them those options to briefly opt out or to opt out of certain types of email sends a message in and of itself, and it also helps keep them in your email list. Christy, do you have anything there? Because I know that.
No, I think that you actually summed that up really well. And we talk about that on a pretty much weekly basis at this point. So, and we will continue. So ditto.
All right, great. Glad to know we are on the same page there. So definitely more value. And to that point, you're going to save time and build trust. You need trust so that you can get conversion. You're very rarely going to get a lot. You can get the one-off, but anytime you think about, you get an ad for something on Instagram or Facebook and you have no idea who that company is, but they have found like the exact product because they've done their research that they think you're going to love. And sure enough, you love it. But now you're like, ooh, but I don't know if I'll ever get it. Like, will it ever show up? And so that can be the thing that sometimes we roll the dice. We're like, I've got to try it. And then you're going to think about things like how much it is or what exactly it is. I'll go into the comments. Did people order it and never show up or whatever? But this kind of thing, you guys are not these fly-by-night companies that are looking to make a fast buck and turn over to something else. But the way you're going to save time through branding, and we often talk about branding as being your colors and fonts and that sort of thing. That also means you have to make fewer decisions. Once you've chosen your colors and your fonts, every time you go in to make a piece of digital content, you're not having to decide what does it need to look like. So that helps with decision fatigue. And it helps as people start to see these common threads that you have done your work and that they begin to recognize you without even, before they even begin to read what you've written, they recognize that it's you. And the more that happens, the more that you build trust. And it really is about more than just your colors and fonts. And this is where we're going to go with the strategizing end, because we're going to talk about creating content pillars. Sometimes they're called content buckets. This is a really important part. It's going to take that work on the front end, but then when you sit down to create your content, you're going to have your brand kit in place, your colors, your fonts, and you're also going to have pillars. And then as you address what those pillars are, you're creating content, again, fewer decisions that you have to make. And you can use AI technology to help fill in some of these gaps once you've identified your content pillars. Heck, you could even use AI. And Christy, I don't know if you have this, is this built into Automation on a Mission, any kind of Canva?
Yeah, so we have something that we're sort of beta testing right now. It's got a limit to how much you can use like as a complimentary service, and then there's a cost associated. But in the meantime, we're still driving people to use ChatGPT just because it's got such high functionality, and there's that free element as long as you can get in. So yeah.
And even within Canva, you can use Magic Write, which is available on the free and premium version. So I think you might be limited, but if you are like, I have, you can ask it. And again, you can really go deep in terms of what you're asking it. Help me create content pillars for my such and such business. And these are the kinds of things that are important to me. And you don't have to use it verbatim, but again, it's just, you're not starting with a blank page. So you can use AI technology to help you just kind of get those wheels turning and dig down. So I'll go a little bit more into content pillars. You want to aim for a balance of business content pillars and personal content pillars. So some people you'll see like 3 and 2. If you don't want to worry about 5, I just like then 2 and 1. And so what that means as you're thinking about your pain points, when you're thinking about what is a business content pillar, one quick way to think of it is what are, addressing those pain points for your client and then, or potential clients. And then for personal pillars, think about what your pain points are. Are you a solopreneur? Are you a soccer mom? Whatever it is. And then creating content along that pillar. So one of your pillars might be behind the scenes, where you share information regularly about what's going on behind the scenes. So Christy's talking about a video that I made on Monday. As I said, I was recovering from surgery. I was sitting in my dining room and I had some flowers that a friend had given me sitting on the table, and they were starting to droop. And I heard a little audio clip and I thought, well, this is a cute song. How could I use it? And I kind of looked at the flowers, and the song clip was, "Are you having any fun?" And so I put the flower in my hair and I used the flower stem as a mustache, and I just tried to have a little bit of fun. So that's part of my brand, is like, let's have fun. Let's learn a little bit about you. And so this is where you would bring in a song that you like. And that song, I thought, I really like that song. That's a cute song. So you're imparting things about yourself without sitting down to say, like, here are 20 bits of information about me. You're sharing something about yourself, and it will resonate with them, or it won't, but they're like, oh, well, that was fun. She was willing to show herself on camera, like in her leopard PJs. Like, it's fine, because that's what I established for me. So that's my voice. So as you start to try to reach to that target audience and sharing who you are, those are going to be your personal content pillars. So some people like to choose content pillars and they say, on Mondays, I share an FAQ. On Tuesdays, I share something about being an entrepreneur. On Wednesdays, I address this content pillar, a DIY hack or something like that. And they actually like to align those days of the week with that content pillar. If that's something that resonates with you, go for it. But it does help when you're sitting down to create content to know that these are the folders that I'm filling in, instead of just grabbing from the ether. And it also doesn't mean that that's the only thing that you share. Sometimes content can get a little stale, or you feel when you go back and look that it was a little stale. So you can add spice here, there, and everywhere along the line and along the way.
My favorite was not that one. It was And I feel like that I have to call it out because I think people could appreciate it. It was the one of, we've hacked your phone, pay up, or we're gonna publish everything on your camera roll, and then you proceed to share like 30 different memes, like, 'cause apparently that's what your whole camera roll is full of is
I'm a meme
so,
lord. Yes.
yeah.
I love
So
memes.
like, but best luck with the meme war here, so. Yeah.
Absolutely. And sometimes I will tag my personal account in my business account and vice versa, like, so that there's a little bit of overflow. But that's just me. That's how I approach it. Some people want to keep one thing very private, and over there, it just depends on you and what your comfort level is. And then these kinds of things, once you hit these content pillars and you follow the data over time, this will also give you an idea on where to spend your money, your advertising money. And I'm always telling business owners, budget the time before you budget the money when we're talking about paid advertisements. Often I've had business owners say, I have this class coming up and I bought an ad on Instagram and nobody signed up. Like, if it were that easy, that's all of us would be rolling in it. There's more than that. And if that ad resonates, they're also going to come back to your feed before they pull that trigger. It's not just the class that you're offering. They want to get to know a little bit more about you. Who am I giving my money to? What is this business? What are they about, other than advertising to me about the class that they're offering? Why else might I want to follow them? Why would I want to know more about them? Or, what's the one tipping thing? So this also addresses that viral myth. Like, I just need that one piece of content to go viral. That's not how you're going to get followers. And even if it is, it's not how you're going to get conversions. They're going to look to see, was that just a one-off? You made that one post and it got a lot of hits or shares, or is this the kind of content that I can come to regularly expect from you? And that's where we build that trust. And then that trust is part of the conversion story, is getting them to that point. And again, remembering these are social spaces. This is not necessarily advice that I'm giving you about any other type of marketing that you're doing. But when we're talking about using the free tools on social media marketing, these are really important points that get overlooked because people conflate advertising and marketing, or marketing and digital marketing. And so a lot of this is specifically about this, that I'm talking today, specifically about those social points of interaction. And to that end, I just wanted to briefly say, a lot of times when I'm in small business settings and we talk about supporting our fellow small business owners, I absolutely love the idea of interacting with their content, making comments. But then you get the thing about share my content. So every time you ask someone to share a piece of your content, you're asking them to risk their social capital, because they are putting their seal of approval on whatever it is that they are sharing. And that's valuable. And you should hold on to your social capital for many, many reasons. So when we ask other business owners to share our content, I hope that we are as mindful as we can be that the content we are asking them to share is as good as we can make it. And are we adding value so that they are willing to risk their social capital? Because if I look at everybody in my local networking group, and I'm just constantly sharing their stuff without, endorsing them or making a comment in addition, like, oh, I've worked with this woman, I love her. People will then, my voice just gets put down on the list of like voices that they will trust, because they'll just see that I'm sharing every and any old thing. So as you make those asks, and that also speaks to the value of a shared post. If a person, a user, a follower shares some piece of your content, that is a huge piece of gratitude that you owe that person. They have trusted you, and it's more than if you're running a contest, share this post. If that would be a whole other conversation. But if you have offered some piece of advice or a piece of content that resonated with them so much that they're willing to put their social capital behind it, that is a great testament to what you have created and what you're doing. And you should consider that feedback as a way to motivate you forward and to create more content like that. So please keep that in mind. I think that gets overlooked a lot in our conversations about make sure you share my content, make sure you make the best content that you can. And we are doing our best. Nobody's out here just throwing any old thing up there, hopefully, and asking. And so if you do have an ask like that, if you are asking people, you might say, I wanted to ask you to do this because you work in this field, or you know a lot of people in this sector. Can you make a comment about da da da? Or just things to consider to make the most out of those shares and to help people, if that is a way that you are relying on spreading the word about your offers. So if you have a class coming up specific, or if you have an offer that you're about to make, you can even reach out to people ahead of time and say, I'm going to be offering this, and I think people in your client base. That's also a good chance to do things like Instagram lives and Facebook lives, bring people together. So Christy and I could do like a 10-minute live about how we could talk about automation on a mission, and specifically social media posts about Black cat photographers with 6 toes on the left paw. Like, so we could, those are great partnership opportunities. So please don't, if you're finding that you're not getting a lot of response to that from your fellow business owners, that's a big ask, but also take it as a huge compliment when you receive that from a customer, a client, a potential business partnership. That's great. And you should do more of that. That's great feedback for you. Keep Canva beautiful. So we're going to run out of time, so I'm not going to have a chance to go into Canva, but we could do a Canva class in the future. One of the reasons I say keep Canva beautiful, the more you use it, I'm a huge Canva lover, the more I realize the value of, just like keep America beautiful, keep Canva beautiful, clean it up. Create a folder system for yourself in Canva. However, and there are lots of people out there who have advice on this. The one way to sort of come at this that I've heard that I really love is thinking about making a folder for everything that you already have on Canva if you're not well organized like myself, and thinking of it as a sort of a dumpster. Put all your stuff in it and then go through it later and move it to the appropriate folder. So create that sort of Canva dumpster and then a folder. And then as you go forward, you might create specific folders for your content pillars, so you know where to find those things and refer back to them. Because another piece of advice is reusing your content. There's lots of information out there, especially on Instagram, on how to repurpose your content. At YouTube, also lots of information, how to repurpose your content. Repurpose, repurpose, reuse, reuse. You don't have to start from scratch every single time. And being able to go back to those posts by making sure you keep your Canva organized, really important. So create and make mistakes. I used to assign every December, when I was a technology teacher, every December we did what was called Hour of Code. And I had children as young as pre-K all the way through 8th grade dedicate an hour to learning how to code. And for some of my students, it was very, very difficult to do the assignment. And the assignment was not to code, but to make mistakes. And I said, I require you to make some mistakes in class today. And because certain people get very uptight about the idea of making a mistake. And one student in particular comes to mind, and she was just like, I can't. So she would either be frozen by the idea of making a mistake because she was so worried. And that's the idea behind coding. This is how we learn. We make mistakes, we find the bugs in the code, and we learn how to write. We learn how to create a set of instructions. That's all an algorithm is a set of instructions. When this, then this. So they would code, and sometimes we would use pictures, sometimes we would use words, sometimes it was drag and drop. But there are always mistakes. Your little emoji would turn and walk into a corner. That's the mistake. This is how we learn, and going back in and making those pathways in our brains really can lead to some amazing discoveries. So often with social media, folks are afraid. They get all like, I have to sound like an expert, and I can't make a mistake, and I can't have a typo. I found typos in my stuff before. It drives me crazy, but it's already posted. If people have already interacted with it, okay. One of the things you're going to learn about me is you're going to see typos in my stuff. It doesn't mean I'm stupid. It means I make typos. It means I'm not thinking fast. It's really like, if that's going to hold you up, if you're going to make a decision about me because you see typos in my work, fine. We probably shouldn't work together because I'm going to be too uptight worrying about it. So if that's going to be a deal breaker for you, then that's cool. let's just agree right now that that's what it's going to be. And it frees you up to be the human that people expect you to be in a social space. So grant yourself grace, give yourself the opportunity to play and create and make mistakes, as long as you're willing to learn. And I think that's just something we carry through in our lives, being willing to make mistakes, because that's the greater the risk, the greater the reward. And one of my favorite things is play stupid games, win stupid prizes. So I'm always like, what stupid prize am I going to win today when I make a post? Because I inevitably will find flaw with something that I've posted, and just knowing like, okay, I'm going to see it. And then I'm just going to have to say, okay, I'm going to let you go. There you go. So that's all I have for this section. Are there any specific questions that I can help with?
You talked about keywords. You didn't say anything about keyword phrases.
Are you thinking about a specific platform?
No, I was thinking of any of the social media platforms.
Yeah,
I was told a while ago that keyword phrases carried more weight than just individual words.
You're really chasing a dragon with that kind of thing. I think you can use keyword phrases, but really it's going to be and you can do research on this. And this is another place where you can use your AI technology if you're looking for specific keywords for your industry, because a lot of times the AI is staying up to date on it. And I will show you this really quickly while I'm in Canva, because let me, while we're talking about keywords, let me just pull up. Okay. So I was working on some posts for a business that I do some social media marketing for. So it's Bike Month. May is Bike Month. So I created this graphic for Bike Month. And I wanted to just bring your attention to this set of stars down in the lower corner. This is Canva Assistant. If you haven't used it, again, I believe this is available in all versions. So one of the things you can do is click on that. And it's trying to be as intuitive as possible, but it doesn't always come through. So I might click on that, and then it's going to be by the element, right? If you saw there, because I wasn't clicked on this box. So I'm going to go into Canva Assistant. I can ask for, give me 5 keywords and or phrases. So it's popped up on there just because I'm working within the item, but I could have opened a Magic Doc or done this. But if I wanted to pull this up and know that I could have put if these are words I specifically want to use, these are words that the algorithm will look for, hopefully, if this technology is correct. But cycling, bicycle advocacy, bicycle advocacy. So that's one of your key phrases. Words or phrases, I don't know that one holds more weight than the other, and I don't know that that's not going to change. So I would just suggest if you're thinking about keywords, also think about keyword phrases, and I wouldn't worry too much about one or the other, because then as I said, you're chasing the dragon. This could change in a week, and now you're like, oh, I gotta just keeping those on there, and making sure that whatever those keywords are also showing up in your own websites, your own spaces, so that it's also helping get people back over to your space where your content lives forever versus where it might show up in somebody's feed. So going into your website and making sure that whatever keywords you find are working or that you're relying on are also showing up, are also embedded somewhere on your website. So this is a new thing that Canva has started to offer. It's this Canva Assistant within the graphic. You can do this also. So if you can open a Canva doc, as a matter of fact, and do the same thing, you can ask it to rewrite right from here, make suggestions on the actual item. But with this company, with this business, I have a brand kit. This is why this is so helpful. This was Roanoke outside. So that helped me decide on all of the colors as well as all of the fonts that I was going to use. So I'm not having to make those decisions over and over and over again. So when you see these colors, you start to, I recognize this is Roanoke outside. These are their colors. So again, it is a relief to not have to make those decisions all of the time. And they really do start to add up because we will give out at a certain point in the day where we're like, I just can't, my brain can't make any more decisions about anything else. Or you really start to second guess your work or your choices because your brain is just, you're done. So that was just something I wanted to make sure I shared about Canva, is that having that assistant option down in this corner, as well as being up here in your Canva docs. So you can ask, if you go into Magic Write, help me, or I can say, so it will make suggestions for you. So then as you're creating, you can ask it for more, or you can, sometimes I use ChatGPT as well. And I use another service called copy.ai, and it just depends. Sometimes I don't like what one is giving me, so I'll just see what the other one says. This is a really nice way to help you sort of identify. Another thing is, if you find an account that you go to a lot or that you interact with a lot, start to figure, even if it has nothing to do with your business, figure out why you like it. What are the things that you see? Is it because you smile when you look at it? Is it because they share pretty pictures, or you love the music? Maybe they share a lot of Beatles songs and you're a huge Beatles fan. Whatever it is, taking the time to really sit with it and sort of digest it on the next level, and think about how you can imbue that in your own social media. Like, I like the music. They tend to use a lot of 80s music, and I'm a big 80s music fan. Oh, I'm going to try to use 80s music. You're not trying to be like them. You're just figuring out, I like Backstreet Boys. I like Taylor Swift. You can even look at where your audience is. If you are not thinking about personal pillars, if you're thinking, I was reading an article about a certain demographic and how they love to watch. There's a certain group of people, a certain age, and it's women, and how much they love the Gilmore Girls. I've never watched an episode of the Gilmore Girls, but if I knew that that was somebody in my target demographic, I know I can add some Gilmore Girls memes or references to my content where I'm going to get them to sort of prick up their ears a little bit. And this was based on like Nielsen ratings. So there's information out there that you can find out for your social media that might not present itself as social media. Again, this goes back to making fewer decisions once you've done the work in crafting who your ideal client is and what their pain points are and what their likes and dislikes are and all of that good stuff. So once you have that, you can really use it to laser focus in lots of ways to stay social on social platforms. So that is just a very quick overview of Canva Magic and how it's really a wonderful portion of that they have added, and they're just such a great value. If you are not a Canva user or you don't use Canva Premium, a lot of what they do is offered in their freemium version, but their premium version, I think it's $120 a year for 5 different spaces, which you can also share with someone if you wanted to help offset the cost. Any specific questions for me at this point? Not sure, Christy. I know I've probably gone over.
Christy ran to the bathroom, so I'm going to jump off.
Sorry.
Oh, there she is.
Sorry.
I'm going to cover for her for a second.
That was kind of you. Thank you. Sorry about that.
I just needed to take.
You had to powder your nose. It's fine.
Nicole, thank you so much for that. That was absolutely wonderful. And I know you've got an appointment you need to get to. So I really appreciate you making such an awesome presentation and also making time for us today. So thank you.
Well, it was a pleasure to be here. I'm sorry if I was rushed. I always talk more than I should, but if we want to talk more about Canva, just let me know. We can dig in a little bit on some of Canva's latest offerings. But in the meantime, have a wonderful rest of your week, everyone. You can find me as Nicole Cooper Media on Instagram. That's where I am a lot these days. And then my personal account is Nicole on the Go. And you can find me there too. And a lot of it gets cross-posted because I'm not good with boundaries. So
Okay.
You're fitting right in with this group.
There you go. And then for everybody else, I said we would talk about the email stuff and also networking. Thank you, Nicole. Have a great day.
Thanks, everyone. You too.
Let's have that conversation on Thursday because I know we're over on time right now. That'll give us a little bit more time prior to digging into Q&A. I'll also be working on getting some more information organized and out to everyone because not everybody can make it to these calls in terms of what to expect. So thank you so much. And we will see you on Thursday. Have a good one, everybody. Bye-bye.